A number of ministers, poets, or musicians who composed Christmas carols had connections to Harvard University. 3 of them, Unitarian ministers, all came from the Harvard Divinity School. Edmund Hamilton Sears, the author of It Came Upon the Midnight Clear. John Pierpont, the father of the composer of Jingle Bells. And John Sullivan Dwight, the English translator of O Holy Night. Another clergyman, Reverend Philip Brooks of O Little Town of Bethlehem fame, served as a Christian ethics professor as well as a preacher at Harvard. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the most popular poet of his day, who wrote the lyrics for I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, was a Harvard professor. And Leroy Anderson, the composer of the music for Sleigh Ride, earned several music degrees from Harvard and once led the Harvard University Band. Each of these notable carol contributions can be found in Ron Clancy's American Christmas Classics or his first volume titled Best Loved Christmas Carols.
Another Unitarian minister who attended Harvard's Divinity School was Reverend John Sullivan Dwight. A co-founder of the Harvard Music Society, he wrote O Holy Night, that marvelous, marvelous carol, the English translation for the French carol Cantique de Noël. And it can be heard on Ron's Best Loved Christmas Carols.
One of the more compelling figures from this noted group is John Sullivan Dwight, the much-respected English translator of O Holy Night for the French carol Cantique de Noël. Upon graduation from the Harvard Divinity School, the Reverend John Sullivan Dwight served as a Unitarian minister in Northampton, Massachusetts. His stay there was short-lived. The Reverend Dwight had to leave the ministry because he became deathly ill when he had to address his congregation, causing him to become somewhat of a recluse. After leaving the ministry, he sojourned the socialistic Brook Farm community, of which he was one of its founders, and there he lived for 5 years, teaching classical languages and music. Life in the commune meant time for farming, cutting wood, cultivating trees, and other chores. Eventually, he returned to Boston and devoted himself to literature, where he became America's first influential classical music critic, writing for Dwight's Journal of Music. The French carol Cantique de Noël also had an interesting history. It became much disliked by French church authorities, even though it had originally been well received by them. This turnabout led to criticism about the carol's perceived lack of musical taste, and because it did not possess the spirit of religion. This repudiation of the song was more likely due to Placide Cappeau's socialist leanings and his later renunciation of both Christianity and his 1847 carol lyrics. One last note. The carol has the distinction of being the first ever heard on radio. On Christmas Eve in 1906, ships at sea heard O Holy Night being played on a violin.